everybody, it's Sophie and Marco Dish Out on the Movies. And guess what?
What?
Today we are reviewing Phantasm 2. Because the editors and powers in charge of the first Phantasm movie hacked it up to bits, making the premise of the story confusing to me, I was more than happy to watch and review this movie. It was released in 1988 and starred Angus Scrimm. I love that name. As the tall man. James LaGrasse as Mike Pearson. Notice that they got a different actor to play young Mike.
What happened was the actors who played Reggie and Mike both took breaks from acting, and so the studio heads said that neither of them should be in the movie because they're not relevant anymore. And so what happened was the director was so stubborn about it that the studio made it so that he could choose. He could keep one person and then not have the other to satisfy both of them. And so he ended up wanting to keep Reggie, of course, because Reggie is his best friend in real life.
Oh.
And honestly, if you had recast Reggie, this movie would not have been any good. Because Reggie was the best part of the movie. And the coolest thing was that in the first one, he was there and you didn't get to know him very well. And then in this one, he's like the star of the show. And if he had not been there, if it had been some other weird guy, it would not have worked.
Wow. Okay, well, Reggie Bannister is the name of the person that Mark was talking about, and he plays Reggie. So Reggie plays Reggie. Paula Irvine is Liz, and Samantha Phillips is Alchemy. And that's right, it's Alchemy, like Alchemy. Weird name. Okay, the story is young Mike has been in a psychiatric living facility for 7 years. He begins to hear a voice, accompanied by dreams of a girl named Liz who needs his help. He also has a desire, as he always has been, to be rid of the tall man, or rid the world of the tall man. So he convinces his therapist he is well enough to get out, and then is released from the facility. At night, Mike ventures out by himself to the local town graveyard and starts digging up graves, only to be interrupted by Reggie, who says if he continues, they're just going to lock you up, he said. But all 3 graves I've dug up are empty, Mike replies. At first, Reggie pretends to be unconvinced, but he knows the tall man exists. Both set out on a road trip to find the tall man. Along the way, Mike keeps hearing that voice of Liz, and they begin to follow the trail of empty towns with completely dug up graves. They eventually find Liz and the tall man. If you break up the movie into thirds, the first 2 thirds I thought were a little dull, I think, but they did serve to fill in the gaps caused by over-editing of the first movie. The last third of the movie is good, although, warning, there is a sex scene, although it's kind of
It's not a sex scene at all.
Well, it's kind of.
It's almost a sex scene.
Yeah, it's goofy and stupid.
It's the funniest scene in the movie. It was hilarious.
It involves the pickup of another girl, Alchemy, who is hitchhiking, and Reggie. Mike has been dreaming about Alchemy too, only he has seen her dead on a table in a mortuary. Mike tells Reggie this, but he just ignores the implications of it. I won't say any more about what happens in the third part, except it's chock full of action and there's an additional weapon.
Here's a question though. Would you have rather had some sort of an unnecessary gratuitous sex scene where
No, absolutely not.
Or would you rather have this where it's funny and where it's like, what the hell is wrong with her? and there's no sex at all.
Well,
This version's
what they
better.
had was funny, but I'm just going to warn anybody who might find it offensive, and it's not like it would be. It's stupid, but it's for for somebody like Marco or maybe somebody else. It's funny stupid, and it's like you're wondering like, what is this all about?
Well,
What is this
it
for?
pointed to the fact that
She's
well,
probably dead or whatever.
there's something weird about her. I
Well,
thought, I don't know.
yeah, there's something
Fine.
weird about her, but I mean, it's not totally obvious that she's weird. It's just you think she's just flaky, a flaky girl. Okay, well, I just wanted to say something about this additional weapon. Remember the silver ball that has a magical ability to fly through the air and pop out spiky knives until it slams into people's bodies? You only find these in the mortuary. Well, now there's an additional gold ball that has more disastrous like effects. Okay, Marco, what would you like to say about it? I have other things, but I'll wait till the end.
It's really hard out on the road. I thought that this movie was a little disjointed. I felt like 3/4 of it was one movie, and then the last fourth was another. Because
Yeah, kind of.
the first 3/4 was like their search for this town where Liz is, Liz is, and the last fourth is them invading the mortuary and trying to defeat the tall man.
And all of his minions.
So it's kind of like the first 3/4 is a great television first episode, like we reviewed Better Call Saul. This is a great example of what you would do to make like a good TV episode, first episode. And then the last fourth is like the finale of the TV show season. So there's something wrong there. Is that it doesn't feel like a complete movie. It feels like the first 3/4 is this long uh, first episode premiere, and then the last fourth is the finale. And although I really loved the entire movie, there was never a point in the movie where I was bored like Safi over here. I was thoroughly enjoyed the whole movie, especially with all the comedy that Reggie has, because I felt like the first one was so serious, and that they make the second one kind of lighter, and I like that. So, oh, and another thing is that the blood is hardly even there. Like they have blood and they have good kills, but there's hardly any blood, so it's kind of weird. It's like why aren't these people bleeding a lot more than they are? What do you have to say, Safi?
Well, I already talked about how Marco thinks the movie is in fourths. I think it's in thirds. The first two, I've already pointed out, they were a little slow for me, and I fell asleep a couple times real fast, but woke up. But I also we've had it recently. We've had the time change,
She
and
falls asleep all the time.
time changes really bother me. It takes me a while to adjust. So anyway, enough of that. Another thing I don't like. Well, Liz, the girl that Mike like has a psychic connection to, which as far as I know, but I mean I could be wrong because the first movie was so confusing for me. I didn't know he has the
He
ability.
did not. He
Okay,
did not.
usually Marco remembers. So I don't know where the psychic ability came from. Maybe it's more from her, but then they communicated during the movie psychically.
Maybe she was the one to make him discover that he had the ability.
That's true. But anyway, other than that, she has no backstory or character development.
Yeah, I pointed that out.
right. And so she's kind of like a plot device, so
Yeah.
she can make Mike and Reggie's life more interesting and challenging.
And it's unfortunate because she's not a bad actress,
No, not at
and
all.
her character had a lot of potential, actually, but she's hardly in the movie like doing anything besides walking around
Or
and almost getting killed.
evading getting killed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And now, last time I talked about the tall man, and I think he had maybe one line, maybe two, but I think it was just one. This time he had several, but not a lot. But he had at least, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, and but I just think he's just not a chatty kind of guy.
in the first movie, he's very mysterious, but I think the reason why he doesn't talk as much is maybe because he's an alien. And he's an alien, so he doesn't really like want to interact with any human people in the way that you would, and he doesn't want to really talk to them very much.
The best thing about him is that he doesn't really have to speak. It's that he has a menacing presence, and he just always shows up at right behind you, or right in front of you, or just pops up, and
Yeah, I like how it pops up.
and so that to me really supersedes talking. So when he does talk, it's almost like you're in shock, but he has a very menacing voice too, so that's okay. Um, okay, well, the only thing left for me is
The rating.
the rating and maybe a little bit of a spoiler alert. So, what do you want to say?
Well, as I said, the kills are cool, but there's not much blood to them. So if you really like bloody kills, like in the first one, they had the blood just completely squirting out of the head for 5 seconds straight. There's none of that in this.
You know what there is, though? There's explosions. I think
Yeah, there's a lot of
there's
explosions.
a lot of explosions. There's like at least 2.
Maybe that's another requirement the studio gave them. You must have
An explosion.
10 explosions, or else nobody's going to find this movie interesting.
I think there's maybe 3. I don't know, but there's a lot of explosions.
There's 3, but then within the explosions, they have a lot of explosion sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, right after the other. So
that's something that is definitely different about the movie. So do you want to rate it and then talk about spoilers?
yeah, the first movie is a lot more mysterious, and there's a lot less dialogue. It's a lot more of just like discovering everything. And the one thing that I really thought was missing from this movie, besides character development with the girl and with Mike in general, he was kind of boring. Was I thought the mortuary from the first one is far superior to the mortuary in this one. It's huge. It I don't. It's just awesome. And in this one, you have this kind of narrow one, and the everything's pointy, and I don't know. It looks a little bit more fake. And the first one really looked creepy. Like you wouldn't want to get stuck in there and not have a way to get out. So, want to rate it, Safi?
All right. Well, the last third of the movie was really good, like I said before. So I will give it a KFC $5 fill-up with the chicken breast and a leg, a biscuit, a chocolate chip cookie, a Pepsi, and an additional side of green beans. It fills me up and makes me happy for an afternoon, which
Ew.
aptly describes the impact of Phantasm 2, the last part of it, on myself.
You would give this movie $5?
Well, that's what that's. I don't like a lot of food. And so I really like this
Okay.
meal. It's my favorite, one of my favorites. So
Yeah, that's true. I give it. So remember how I was saying I felt like the first three fourths was a premiere and the last fourth was a finale episode. I give this movie an appetizer and a dessert to aptly describe the experience. You have an appetizer, it makes you want a lot more, and then you just skip right to the dessert. Like, this movie could have been like 5 hours long. I would have been fine. I would have watched the whole thing. So,
I don't think I could have. Sorry.
well, that's because you fall asleep all the time. So I give this movie pigs in a blanket
Hmm.
for the kind of, I don't know, the way that they're enclosed. It's kind of like how the people are in the coffins and they get put in the oven, and, and then I also give the movie the dessert, uh, some sort of a mocha ice cream with fudge and chocolate.
Hmm.
So pigs in a blanket, and then a mocha chocolate fudge ice cream.
Hmm. Sounds good.
It doesn't sound like a full meal though. It sounds like
No, but I
you're
think the pigs
having
in the blanket represent
a
the first
party?
part of the movie, and the ice cream represents the really action-packed and interesting final part of the movie, right?
Yeah, but the point is there's something in the middle that's missing, this huge piece. The girl says at the beginning of the movie, I know when my grandparents die everything's gonna be horrible and something bad's gonna happen, and then 10 minutes later her grandparents die. So it's like you it goes so fast that there's not like a beginning, middle, and an end. It's all like the beginning, and then the end is the end. So there's no middle.
Okay, well, should we do spoilers?
Yeah, spoiler alert!
Okay, well, the movie ends with cliffhangers, which was kind of like the other movie in a way, although I wasn't sure by watching the other movie because I didn't read anything about it. I just have heard about it, like in this episode of Buffy. I don't know what season it was. Maybe Marco knows. Where after they get home from their parties, they're going to watch Phantasm, and they accidentally got Fantasia instead. And I had seen the picture of Angus Scrimm
Everyone sees that.
on that cover for years. And anyway, so if I would have known, then it wouldn't have been a mystery to me that they would do sequels. But so anyway, this movie ends with some cliffhangers. And do you want to say anything?
Well, my favorite part was the beginning because, well, favorite part, man, the part where I was really surprised. I loved how in the beginning they completely follow the first one. It's cliffhanger. Like a lot of movies, you have a cliffhanger and it jumps ahead or it goes around and you don't know what happened with the cliffhanger exactly. Like, you don't get to see it. And in this movie, you get to see the cliffhanger continue. And that was really cool. The thing that I did not like was the pacing, and just to talk about the stuff with the ending. Here's a plot hole for me, is that if he is so intent on destroying the tall man, then why does he wait such a long time to be in this mental hospital? Why doesn't he quote act normal as soon as he can?
Well, I don't think he ever acted abnormal.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, in other words, I think he's wrongfully put there.
And then so why
Which
does
has happened.
he waits all this time and then all of a sudden he's like, okay, I gotta pretend and act normal so I can get out of here. It's like, why didn't you do that like years ago? Oh, I get it, because the kid can't play him anymore because so much time has passed. I guess it's okay, but still, it's a plot hole, and it really kind of, I don't know. And then the girl, Alchemy, I knew all. That's another thing I forgot to mention. I loved the dream stuff in this movie. There was a lot of foreshadowing, like with the girl in the corner and the hood, and how that turned into be the guy with the golden ball inside him. I love the dream stuff because that was like giving you hints and telling you what's going to happen before it happens secretly. And then I love the ending too. At the same time, I kind of don't because I know that the girl is not going to be in the next one.
Which one?
The main love interest.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. That's another issue, is the continuity. She should be in the third one and still be in the series, even if her character did not start off as something originally the director wanted. She should still be in the series, and she should have become a real character and not just a plot device. So, anything else, Sophie?
Yep. Okay, well, I'll just end it like this because this is how the movie ended, and of course, it made me mad. But then I know these movies were made a long time ago. Like I said, this movie was made in 1988. That's 30 years ago. Okay, so if I'd known there'd be more sequels, back then, if I wouldn't have known there'd be more sequels, I'd be really mad. But anyway, this is what happens. Mike tells Liz, this is the last maybe couple minutes of the movie, quote, "This is only a dream." Well, it's kind of a paraphrase thing. And then the tall man appears and replies, "No, it is not." And that's the end of the movie. So, of course, then you begin to think, everything you saw, was that real or was that a dream? And so it makes you want to see
more
the next movie, or more of the story, to see, was that what happened, everything that happened, was that all just a dream, or did it really happen, or did parts of it happen, or what? So I don't need to. I don't want to say it anymore. I don't need to say anymore. I think you should watch it and see what you think, because it drives me a little bit crazy. I don't like it. It's almost like you're on a rug and it's pulled out from under you. And I realized they did this in the last movie, where some things were just a dream, and really the dream thing confuses me. He did have a thing. We've talked about this already. He's got this psychic connection with this girl. Never had one before with anybody, which I didn't think so. But I thought, well, maybe I missed it, and because I was confused. But then Marcos says, no, he's never had a psychic connection with anybody except this girl. And so then, you could have, then you're thinking, well, did he really now? Is this all a dream? Did he even really get out of the Psychiatric Institute? I mean, it's all a dream. What's a dream? So it's like you're thinking, so it's like you're standing there and somebody's just pulled the rug out from under you. Because you begin to question everything that you saw. What was real and what wasn't. So, and it's in a way it's a negative thing, but another way it encourages you to see the next one. But we're not going to be reviewing the next one for this year. We'll wait till next year. So, if anybody's hoping, you'll just have to watch it yourself, because we want to do some other things.
I kind of agree with the dream stuff being confusing, because it kind of leaves you not satisfied even though you just had this really satisfying movie. It's like you had this really great movie, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're not sure of anything anymore. And I think that it works in the first movie's case, but in this movie, I was a little disappointed with that fact because I know that in the next movie she won't even be in it, and
That's the thing. It's 2018,
yeah.
and we have information, more information about what has been done with the movie. And back then, it wouldn't have been the case. It would be 1988, and we've been thinking, well, are they going to make another movie? Who knows? Because we wouldn't even know. We would be lucky to find out even if they were going to make another movie.
Well, and then we would watch the third one and we'd be really pissed off because she's not in it. Right?
Yeah. Well, I don't care.
I do because it's continuity, and because this movie is just like one big setup with like a tiny little finale. And so if by not following that up with the satisfying next movie, they're kind of like saying F you.
You know, years ago, I didn't watch this show, but there was this movie about a movie. There's a TV show called Dallas, and I know people have heard of it. And it's about this rich family and rich people in Dallas, Texas. And there was this one thing where I may be confused about, but I do know that both things happened. JR, who's the main character, played by Larry Hagman, he got shot. And then they said, I believe, that they had this one whole season, and then I don't know when they found it because I haven't watched the show. This was all in the news. I mean, this is a big talk of the town. The next season, at the beginning, they said, "Well, that was all a dream. Everything that happened the entire season." I mean, I can't even imagine. I don't even remember how people thought. I think they were a little bit like, "What?" Because this was weird for our TV show to have done this. And so this is almost kind of like the same thing. Although I don't think it's even as bad, really. I mean, you're talking about a season that maybe had 23 episodes. So every episode, and 23 of them were all a lie in a dream. It never happened. So, I mean, I think that would weird me out.
Alchemy confuses me, though, because the tall man cannot be in two places at once. And it's revealed that she's basically him, I guess. And
I don't know about that.
He's in the driver's seat. He's the one driving, and she was driving, so that means it's him. And so how could he be in the mortuary and out looking around for his hearse at the same time? How does that work? Can he possess people or something? They need to explain that. Because then at the end she becomes the tall man. And because the whole movie, after you saw her body in this other mortuary, you're wondering, okay, what's going to happen to her? Is she a victim? Is she going to be a bad guy? What? And then at the end she turns into the tall man. So, that's kind of confusing.
Well, I guess I didn't get that either, but the clue or the foreshadowing or something was that Mike had been having visions of her, but she's dead. And I mean, the visions were very clear. He saw her on the mortuary table, he touched her. Yeah. So, and then he looked again and she disappeared. And then he tells Reggie, and Reggie says, you're just, having these.
Well,
you're stressed out or something.
He was focused on sleeping with her.
Yeah.
Because it's hard on the road.
Yeah, I know.
But that's really confusing.
So anyway, I think we should wrap it up. And but don't count on us doing the next sequel until next year, okay? Because we want to do something else now. But I'm glad that we could do this just so we could get, for me anyway, fill in some of these story gaps that came with the first, because to me it was disappointing that it was so confusing, and then they said it's a dream, and like, what? And now we're back to what? But at least we know more of the story. Now we're not so well, at least not me. I'm not so lost. So anyway, uh,
Next, we'll be doing the Psych Halloween episodes. So the TV show Psych.
which would be a nice change because that's a really good comedy show, and
Yeah.
I miss it, and I know a lot of people miss it. So
And they made the movie, and they turned it into an action movie.
well, I don't know what it was, but
It was supposed to. The show was a comedy detective series, and they made that into an action comedy series. Very confusing why they would do that. It's, I mean, the people who love it because of the detective stuff too, not just because of the comedy.
well, I like the show because of the characters. I like the actors, and I think I mean, they're just a really nice. They all get along, and they're just really they go together so well. So okay, well we better go. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye!